Star Wars is dead. Burn it to the ground. Burn it. Why even bother? It's flying casual. It's Monday. Had the oldies on today. The oldies. The Middle by Jimmy Eats World came on the oldies. Needless to say, I cried 7 times. Hey everyone, this is Flying Casual on this fine Monday, October the 7th. I should date this then when you can't rewatch it. I'm James. Joining me today up to my this side right is Heidi, executive producer. Heidi, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I can't wait to talk Star Wars. I look forward to this all week. And beside Heidi, we got Scotty Hawk from Scotty Hawkish.
What's up? It's Scotty Hawk, and the channel is Scotty Hawk-ish. You confuse me by calling me 2 names, man. You can't do that.
I'm just trying to tell people where to find you.
I'm just here so I don't get fined, chat.
And Scotty, have we talked about your opinion of the Acolyte?
For some reason it comes up every single week.
Every week, right?
I feel like Steve Rogers. That's not going away anytime soon. So
No. What's your opinion on Oshimir?
I don't know. I'm just I need to see more. I can't wait for season 2, and I think that the story really could go places. So
coming in hot with that one. We got the chat. We got Skywalker's Academy, Ron Prasak, and Goof R35 in the chat right now. Thanks for joining us, everybody. They're hot. They're coming in hot in the chat to discuss today's topic.
Awesome.
What is today's topic? It's has Disney ruined Star Wars beyond repair? Is it beyond repair? And look, this is a topic of conversation, and we try to talk about these things. And this seemed like a fair point to make, and we'll just get right into it. We'll get in the chat, whatever you guys want to say. Hey, Vermont Mike is here. We'll say, just bring up a topic. We'll bring it up, but we got to talk about this right off the hop. Scotty, I'll start with you on this. But every day I wake up and there's every day you wake up and there's a new YouTube video, Twitter rant, whatever, about how Disney Star Wars sucks, blah, 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 blah. That is what it is. You're not going to change that. Fine. You either go with the flow on that, or you say, hey, you know what? No, I'm going to stick up for, I like it. I stick up for it, whatever. Either way, I don't care. But now mainstream media is like coming in on this, right? Variety just reported that they're going to have like toxic fandom groups and like their story groups somewhere. And Hollywood Reporter is Disney bad at Star Wars? They had a whole write-up on is Disney bad at Star Wars, and then today I wake up and an actress from The Acolyte said Disney needs to stand up for their talent when they get abused online, and I wasn't sure how the fandom would react. Well, I had an idea, but then I thought, but when Kenobi came out, Disney did come to their defense. They had they put out posts saying don't be kind. They had Ewan McGregor in his car do a video. Yeah. So they have done that in the past, and I don't know if that helps or just adds fuel to some of the fires. Obviously, you should never be a dickhead. I'm going to say dickhead because I don't like to go too far on the swearing over here. But anyway, every day there seems to be something coming up to that effect. Scotty, how do you wrap your brain around that? I'm going to go to you after, but how do you wrap your brain around it? And do you feel like Star Wars might be in a really bad spot right now? Hey, KG.
I mean, their PR approach is definitely in a bad spot, but it's like that old saying, and I even think it's in I say old saying, I think it's like Guardians, isn't it? Guardians of the Galaxy, where he's like, I might be a dickhead, but I'm not a complete a-hole. So, or the other way around. It's like there's a certain way of talking about Star Wars in a negative light, and like the snarky jokes and the quippiness, and there's like edgelords everywhere and shitlords everywhere, and I feel like
what's an
Star Wars? So like a meme. No, I'm gonna educate you right now, and I'm probably
I know. I appreciate it because I know nothing.
So a meme lord is like someone who there's a million memes for scenarios you talk about, but like the meme lords are the people who are putting the meme out first, and it's getting the most everything. A shitlord or edgelord is like you are just taking that meme, the most polarizing opinion, and posting that as in like you have just said the most genius thing on the planet, when it's really just the most, you're going to just get the most reactionary response on both sides out of that. So it's like you always see that one comment on a video when you're like, oh, you know, this dude didn't even watch anything and he's just taking the most edgy thing he can say about it. I think that Star Wars has a big issue with fans like that, and I wish that the response from PR wouldn't be so focused on them, because there is negative response that I think is warranted. And, you know, canceling shows, for instance, and not talking about why it was canceled. If it's the ratings, be upfront and say, yeah, it's just the ratings, and that's why we're not going forward with it anymore. Maybe that's the spark that the fandom needs to realize, like, okay, you want this stuff, you actually got to go watch it, like, when it's streaming. That's the numbers and the metrics that they're looking for. And I don't know. They need something like bad. I think Skeleton Crew needs to be about a 9.5, like up with Mando, or it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just went on a tangent. Sorry.
No, that's what we're here for.
I mean,
it would be worse if it was dead air.
Yeah.
Sorry, Heidi.
Well, no, it's like Book of Boba Fett was probably bigger than season 2 of Mandalorian, but now they're not going to do a season 2 of Book of Boba Fett because there's too much complaining on Twitter, now X. Here's the thing, only 10% of the opinions in the world are on Twitter, but everybody acts like Twitter is the majority when it's not, it's the minority. And what's funny is you got the same fans complaining about how Tamara Morrison is being mistreated because he really wants to come back to play Boba Fett in some sort of way, or even maybe even a clone trooper. What was the guy who was friends with Obi-Wan? Blocking.
Rex.
Yeah, come back as Rex or something like that.
Cody.
Cody.
Yeah.
One of those guys that looks like the other guys.
It's just funny because the same people who are complaining that they didn't like the Book of Boba Fett are the same people complaining that Tamara Morrison is getting shafted and they're not bringing him back. And it's like, well, what do you want? And the thing is, it did well, so I don't get why we can't have a season 2. And when I watched the Book of Boba Fett, even if you didn't like Boba Fett, those episodes just with Mando and Grogu and Luke, like when I was sitting there watching it, I had to like stop and realize I'm not watching a movie. I'm not watching the Star Wars movie between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. I realized I was watching a TV show, but it was just so amazing. Like I got the same feeling when watching Luke train Grogu in that sequence that I did in the theaters when I watched the Star Wars movies. So even I personally loved the Book of Boba Fett. I like that he wasn't a completely evil person. I like that he went through this change. So I know a lot of people disagree. They just wanted him to be a jerk, I guess. I don't know. But I mean, the whole thing to me was great. And even if you didn't like that section of the Book of Boba Fett, at least you had this section of like season 2.5 of Mandalorian. And I don't know why why they can't give it a chance. And just like, sometimes Disney just listens to the critics after the fact, but not before the fact.
Scotty says very reactionary. Book of Boba Fett's a weird one because I love it. I'm a champion of Book of Boba Fett. And people that I talk to that aren't in the Star Wars fandom, they all seem to have enjoyed that show. And it always surprises me when they say they enjoyed the Book of Boba Fett because I'm like, nobody likes it. They're like, oh, I like that one. When Mando came, they're like, oh, it was weird that it turned into a show, but I liked it. That's always like the reaction seems to always be the exact same. And so I don't, but I want to talk like Scotty's point on the PR. They have garbage PR over at Disney Lucasfilm. It is complete trash from top to bottom. Like everything they say and do is like the complete opposite of what they should say and what they should do. And every time somebody opens their mouth over there, it's like, just stop. Just, I can't handle it anymore. And because they're feeding the flames of the negative fandom that they're trying to put the fire out of, but they can't because they're just adding fuel to it. And it's getting to the point where they say things, and even I'm like, and I'm very indifferent to everything. I just give me the material and let me judge it based on that. But I'm at the point I'm like, shut up. Like, you're going to make me hate this. Like, just stop talking. And I don't know who's decided that they need to combat certain aspects of the fandom. But now the actors are saying that they're not even coming to their defense. So I can't figure what's good, because what I'm seeing is very defensive, like blaming me for all these reasons for not watching or not liking your show. And then the actors are saying that they don't come to their defense when they get pulled through the flames, which they never should be. They're portraying characters. So I just think like they have to just sit down and figure out their massive PR problem. And don't have Ryan Johnson call out Mike Zero. Don't have J.J. Abrams calling out the fandom menace. Don't have writers. I saw a writer, I can't remember, wrote a few Star Wars books and put down season 1 of The Mandalorian for, I think, not having enough women in like the first episode or something. And I'm like, that's a fair opinion, but you work for the company. Like, I know they're freelance, I get, but like, I just find it's the things that are said over there. And I just don't think any of that, this is a while ago, but I just don't think any of this helps them in any way.
Yeah, and as far as like the actors talking about people coming to their defense, like I don't even think with Moses Ingram, I don't think that the studio came to her defense. It was more Ewan McGregor himself and other people like Hayden.
So they did
Disney make a statement?
They made Star Wars did. So I don't know who. And I mean, it was just you're right. It was just a like a post, I believe. It wasn't anything great. So you might be right. I might be wrong on that one. But sorry guy, but she went through it, because that was all you could see the comments that she was getting. Like, she got hit hard, unjustly. Like, she got hit hard for reasons that just go.
Whereas I think in the current situation, and if we're talking about Amandla, I think that her very outspoken political stances have brought on other backlash that you can't necessarily lump in with some of the Star Wars backlash. And I think that's maybe why Star Wars is like, wait a minute. We didn't tell you to go make that music video now. Like, or, you know what I'm saying? So I don't take anything away from any of these people. Like, it's your platform. It's, you know, it's your prerogative. Yeah. But to call on a studio to come to your side when, you know, really that's not the politically correct thing for these studios to do when they're trying to appeal to a general audience.
Yeah, but look what they did to Gina. They fired her.
Yeah,
they were.
Yeah, man, and that's a whole other can of worms. I agree. Yep. Yeah.
And
that's
and that's too bad, because I liked where that character was going.
She's getting a show.
One of my favorite characters.
I still don't know what actually happened. I refuse to stick my head into that sandbox of
just
drama.
just give it time, because it is going to litigation with Elon Musk's team of lawyers. So I'm very interested to see.
Like, it had to be something. Sorry, go on.
I would actually like to see Elon do more stuff like that. Like, what really happened with Ray Fisher too over at DC and stuff like that. So kudos to Elon Musk for even, you know, looking into something like this, because I feel like these big studios do need to be checked regardless of opinions of the actor and what they said, he said, she said. The big corporations should not be allowed to act a certain way towards people they've hired. And I agree, I think, mostly with that. But everything else, like, was just a wild. Yeah.
I personally, if I was an actor, I would never get political, because I think that's a bad idea, because you're gonna. My brother-in-law owns a beer store and a restaurant, and he has he has a lot of political views, and like people from this political party that he belongs to, they keep asking to put signs. He's like, no, he goes, I'm gonna turn customers away. That's stupid.
Yeah. Well, and every job us plebs have ever had is like, you sign right here, and in the fine print it says your political opinions, like don't say, hey, I work for so and so and I think blah 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 politically, and don't put that on your social media because they will fire you for that. Like I can get fired for that. So
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, I could get fired of that because I work for the government.
Yeah,
Right.
you-
So it's just like
yeah,
it's a
you gotta keep your
normal
mouth
thing
shut.
that places.
No, it's
can do.
actually it's a violation of something called the Hatch Act.
Yeah.
You can't be politically involved and work
And
for the US government.
my country's getting there, but your country is like, phew, man, it's black or it's
Mhm.
white. And I don't mean that in a racial. I just mean like
No,
literally,
I know
like
what you
you're
mean.
black. It's black and it's white, and there's no. It's like, and my story here again the exact same. It's like, but like you can't have like you can't disagree high on like what's better than your Coke without a fight breaking out now. Like it just doesn't make any sense. And you know what I hate? This is side act bar. You know what I hate on Twitter the most? One has to go, and they're like Harry Potter, Jurassic Park, Star Wars, MCU. I'm like, one doesn't have to go. Like it literally doesn't have to go. Stop trying to bait me into your BS. Like it's like, why are we so like it's so negative? Everything is so negative driven. And look, I don't think everything they produced, Disney Star Wars has produced has been golden. But I also I was 18, 19 when the Phantom Menace came out. I was in. You guys are gonna love this. I was in computer class where we learned how to use this thing called the internet, and I sat there on the internet, and they're like. And I can't remember what the search engine was. Just like, and you could type anything you want, and it will, populate. And I typed in Star Wars because I was excited, and all it was hatred. The movie like wasn't even out yet. It was all the previews, and all it was hatred for Jar Jar Binks. That's all it was. So this isn't just a Disney thing. This has been around for a while, and everyone forgets how much the prequels. How you could probably attest to this. The prequels were despised when they first came out, and for a lot of the older fans they're still like that. I have a friend who doesn't hate them, doesn't like them, he obsessed with Star Wars, but his son is a prequel baby, and his son loves the prequels, and now he sees it through his eyes, so he's starting to appreciate them more and more.
I mean, I think what happened was when Disney bought Lucasfilm, I think they thought they didn't have to advertise for one thing. I think they thought it was automatic. I remember last year, Disney was talking about how she went to Star Cruiser like the last weekend and it closed. I think that was advertised incorrectly. Because she said she had a lot of fun. I looked at that and I said, if I'm going on vacation, I don't want to fight in a war. I personally think they didn't advertise for that right, and. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't have made it part of Disney. I would have made it completely something different.
No, you're right. We did the interview. We did the interview with Heidi, with Desi, like a year ago. I can put the link down below. It's on the channel, and she goes into detail on what it was, and I was like baffled, like just like this is not what I was told it was. So it seemed like it was a way cooler experience than what they sold. So that's another massive problem. But you're right. You said something earlier where they bought it and they thought it would be just a walk in the park. And Lucas had all of his midi-chlorian and microbiotic ideas and stuff they brought to the table. And ultimately, J.J. Abrams wanted none of it. And you know what's fascinating to me is when you look at, like, the sequels might age well. We don't know yet because we haven't lived long enough past them. We're at 9 years from The Force Awakens, which is crazy. Yeah. But we haven't lived long enough to see if they're going to age well or not. But the one thing they need to step back and do is you have to realize like all these like mythological stories and themes and lore, they're timeless. And you can't modernize those kind of things. I think some of the stuff they try to do is modernize a little bit too much. And I think they've been okay with it being subtle for the most part, but I think every once in a while when it creeps in, people get turned off and they use that and then they deflect it into something else that they can scream louder at their TVs at and on social media about.
Well, I mean, the whole opening line to Star Wars is a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So it's not today, it's our past, even though it's an updated past. Mm-hmm. But you were talking earlier about some woman, you said somebody wrote a book and complained about Mandalorian not having enough female characters.
Yeah.
Well, then what happens is they add female characters and then people complain. So if you try to fix one thing, you're not going to, you're gonna anger someone else. That's why if someone goes and retcons the sequels, you're gonna upset the sequel fans, and then the people who want it retcon, it's not gonna be retconned the way they want. So you're not gonna make anybody happy. Just all I can say is just try to make good shows and don't worry about what people say. Just know you're doing quality work. I mean that's easier said than done, I guess. Um, but one great example of uh, a girl team, and I've brought this up 1,000 times. I know I have, but it's just so amazing. This season 2 finale of The Mandalorian, you have this entire girl team of fighters, and that didn't seem forced. That just fit, and it worked. Usually, you get a chick brigade like that, and it just looks forced or like DEI or something, but it made sense to the story. So you can do that, but you've got to plan it out and make it good. Just don't throw stuff in there for the heck of it. Like The Rise of Skywalker, the very end, there was 2 women who started making out.
Mhm.
We didn't know anything about these characters. There weren't any heterosexual couples making characters. I don't care if there's lesbians in Star Wars or gay people in Star Wars, but to just have 2 women making out just to
Yeah.
because you think you're gonna please a fan base for no reason is ridiculous. But then Andor, we do get a couple lesbian characters, so they didn't make out. I mean, if they're gonna do that, why not have them make out?
This is the
people just
wildest point.
want good story.
Heidi just brought it up though. In Andor, there is a lesbian couple in Andor. I have not heard a single person talk about that lesbian couple. Yet the Acolyte is the gayest Star Wars we've ever gotten, and I couldn't stop hearing about that. And there's nothing gay in the Acolyte, if I remember correctly, right?
Other than the 2
people who
mothers.
made it.
Yeah.
Like other than the 2
might not
mothers,
even be
2
gay, really.
right.
They're just witches. We don't really know.
Right,
They
and
don't
had to
like.
have
Do they have a
babies.
makeout sesh?
Right.
Yeah, well, but they make the babies through the Force, I think. So they don't even.
Right.
Anyway, but like Andor has a couple like hold hands, they kiss. There's a sexy. They don't have it, but there's a sexy. There's Andor is the gayest Star Wars we've ever gotten, but no one talks about it.
Yeah.
Like if it makes sense, people will go along with the female characters, with the characters of every race on the planet, if it just flows naturally and you feel like it fits in what you're doing. The minute you can sense it being forced down your throat, that's when people start to lose their minds over it. That's when people start to get angry.
Yeah, and like how long did it take the fandom in Andor to buy into that story between those 2 women? And it's like it didn't take more than 2 damn scenes, Disney. Like, give us substance. We don't care if people kiss, like Heidi's saying, but give us some substance. Like, let us know what, like, I got questions, okay? When people are like making out, you know what I mean? It'd be like if Cyril and that other girl who are like working for the Empire, it's like if they just kissed randomly in a scene after eyeballing each other and not having that conversation in the closet. Like, you know, I don't know. Call me crazy, but I think that fans are just smarter than these TV shows are being written. We want more. I feel like we're greedy, but
I think the problem is we've been inundated with so much. I don't want to say content, but it's like TV shows.
No,
and
you're
movies,
right, though.
Especially over COVID. Like we sat on our butts and watched TV
and the good
during
stuff
COVID.
Stands out above.
Exactly, and you start to notice the difference more because it's not just like get home from work, and must see TV Thursday, going to watch Friends and Seinfeld. I don't know what they watch nowadays, but and you just sit down and you watch whatever's on. Now it's like you have choices, and we've seen so much of this that we know what's good and what's not. And like when you have shows. Every time an episode of The Acolyte come on, someone would be like, man, Breaking Bad. I'm like, you can't compare the two. But also, I've seen Breaking Bad and fantastic show. Why can't Star Wars be a fantastic show? But then, so you got to figure out. But I also think the media doesn't help them out when all they do is talk about how gay the show is. That's not helping them out. Talk about the characters. Talk about what's going on in the show. It's those things that just add fuel to the fire. And it's great to be proud of. It's great to enjoy that stuff, but it doesn't all have to be about that. And The Acolyte, I think, fell down that rabbit hole of that is what it turned in. That's what the narrative became for that show, when the narrative should have been, what is this show about? Should have told us that it was. But I still think, look, in my opinion, they need to go back to those supplementary materials, like have the spin-off books before the shows and movies come out. Give us a little insight into who these characters, like Andor aside, because it's the adult thing and it's slow, whatever. But like for fun stuff that you want people to be engaged in, give me a stupid book about Osha and what she did when she left the Jedi Order, and give me a little bit of that beforehand. Let me buy it on, I don't know, do you guys have the Scholastic Book Club? We have a Scholastic Book Club in schools here, and you pick, and it's like that, like give kids something to read to get excited about, because that's your future. You got to get those kids. It's like in Dogma with the cigarette company. Get them while they're young. The Catholic Church. Get them while they're young. Here's a reference you think you hear on a Star Wars podcast today. But you know what I mean? Like we don't have any of that. And instead we have just like Lucasfilm yelling at us, the actors yelling at us. And I feel like I haven't said anything. I don't care. I watch your crap. I will sit down and watch whatever you put in front of me. I might not like it, but guess what I'm doing next week? I hated the 3rd episode of The Acolyte, but guess who was there right at 9:00 the next week to watch the stupid 4th episode? This guy. You have the Star Wars fans' money. Just make like people are saying in the chat. Just write good characters. Like it might be harder to write a good story. I don't know, but like when you have engaging characters, fans let a lot slide. When you have well-written, engaging characters, because I'll bet you if I went back and watched Breaking Bad, I could probably pick a few of those episodes apart because they were directed by Rian Johnson. No, because you can because everything has a weakness, and I'll bet you I can look at Pitch Meeting on YouTube. That guy can rip any movie, good or bad, to shreds, and it's hilarious and it's satire.
I like Mr. Sunday movies too.
Yeah, anything can be ripped apart. Okay.
Yeah,
but when it's written well, audiences are more forgiving.
When you talk about like the engagement, look at Grogu. You can't even engage with him, and he's more engaging than some of the stuff that we've gotten just because we know, we know what potential he has. So like start a story that has potential, that's got juice. You know what I mean? You're giving us all these little like fractal moments in time that have no before and no after, and we're just like, okay, what's next? Skeleton Crew, I guess. Let's just take the brackets and we're gonna put them over in this part of the timeline. We're gonna go talk about this now, and who knows if that'll even connect. You know,
I wonder if the Acolyte, if we should have just saved the witches part for season 2 and flashbacks.
So we never would have got
100% like Chimere at the beginning. I think.
Yeah.
Lead into why he even met one of them. You know.
And then, you know, then you want to know what was going on. You got to wait till next season to figure out what was going on. And
needed more flashback, though. It just did. Needed the flashbacks, in my opinion.
What confuses me about the Acolyte is it cost a bajillion. It was reportedly like 180, but now they're saying it's closer to 300 million what they spent on this show. I don't think anything I saw justifies that much money on it, but that's my opinion. What do I know? But it also took 4 years to make. 4 years from the moment that we were told about it. When those two stats go side by side, my mind is blown. And I'm like, I need to get in the writers. I need to get into Hollywood and be a showrunner on Star Wars, because I think my pockets would be filled with cash, because it just didn't feel fleshed out. Like it didn't feel like that was 4 years of brainstorming. Like Book of Boba Fett, people complain about, but I'm like, that probably took 6 weeks to write. This one, and it cost way substantially less. And I think KG just said Kenobi cost way less. Also, I think it was like an $80 or $90 budget, whatever it was for Kenobi. I could be talking out of my butt. I don't remember. It was super cheap budget. It looked cheap, but it didn't cost anything. Also, yeah, but it didn't cost anything, so they had to go that route. If they had the budget of Andor or like, how do they give Andor a $220 million budget or whatever it was? And Acolyte a $180 to $200 million budget, but then Kenobi, a known name, like were they so scared over Solo that they're like, we don't trust this, we don't trust this. Yet they don't listen to online when it's saying, hey, we want Kenobi, we want Kenobi, we want Kenobi, but they listen online when all they're doing is complaining. They're telling you they want Kenobi, and you're half-assing Kenobi. It's just you're digging your own grave here.
With that one, I would agree. Yeah.
Okay, show
think
over.
I think a lot of the budget stuff, though, just from what I'm seeing, is like if you start to see set leaks early from projects, expect it to cost a lot. I think that the Acolyte, I think it'd be hard to argue that it's not one of the best looking shows they've done. Andor again looks so good because all of the sets look so good, and that shit costs money. Like you're going on
100%.
site. Yeah, so I think if a show starts to look good, like with on location shots, like even the trailer for Skeleton Crew, it's a lot of CGI. I think environments in a lot of these shots that I'm seeing, but I expect that will have a huge budget too, because it looks really damn good in my opinion. I hate that we have to keep saying in my opinion. I feel like I say that all the time. You guys know it's my opinion.
Well, I don't know. You might have seen that. You might be on your computer reading an article.
Yeah. This guy. I never watched a single episode. I'm just taking other people's opinions and using them as my own. People do that, guys. Believe it or not.
KG has a good point here. They trusted Tony Gilroy because he saved Row One and it produced Bucks. Very true. Very true. I still think Scotty's right. The reactionary stuff though, like Kenobi, you also don't half-ass Kenobi. I like it's like everybody, like I wasn't, but everybody else was clamoring for an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie, and then like, nah, we don't trust that anymore. We're gonna make it a series, and then they turned a movie script into a 6-episode show, and I think there's so much good in Kenobi, but for me it fell flat. Like there's a lot of good in it. Like Heidi, I know you really like the Leia and Kenobi stuff, and I think that's strong as well. And I think there's like the Underground Railroad stuff they did with the Jedi, the Anakin and Vader stuff, obviously. But it just felt flat to me, and it could be honestly, if you make that same movie with an Andor or a show with an Andor budget, maybe I like it a little bit more. I don't know.
Well, I think Kenobi should have been a movie, and maybe Solo should have been a TV series.
Yeah. Well, Solo didn't have the chance because Disney Plus didn't exist, right?
That's true. Well,
they might
have been working on it. They might have been working on it by then. I don't know, but I don't know. I think it's sometimes it's easier to play Sunday morning quarterback. You know, I don't know. There's a reason I'm not getting paid to be an executive. I mean, it's easy for me to look at things. What?
You're executive producer Heidi. You were.
Yes, sure. But I don't know. It's kind of like when you get like if they hire a boss outside somewhere who has absolutely no idea what they're doing, and the people under them try to tell them this is how we do it, and they come in saying, no, we're going to do it from this way from now on, and it all goes to hell, and you wonder why, and they won't listen.
Man, I keep saying that about these people who keep screaming about KK getting fired. I'm like, you think the next person coming in is going to be any better? Let's see.
Well, it's interesting because
you don't know. I think honestly,
she's been around so long, is what I'm saying. It's like you're gonna bring some. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe it's a breath of fresh air. Maybe.
Have you ever seen the thing Empire of Dreams?
I think so.
Sounds it's on. It was on A&E, but now it's on Disney Plus. And they Alan Jr., who was head of 20th Century Fox at the time. The only reason Star Wars got made was because he believed in the project, because no one else wanted to touch it. And he got the brunt from the board members. He actually was protecting George Lucas. So they weren't interfering with George Lucas. He was actually stopped them from interfering. But yeah, he heard daily every day about how much they didn't like it, and also they were violating SAG rules because there were no credits at the beginning of the movie, and that's why George Lucas isn't part of the directors union, and that's why he couldn't get Steven Spielberg to direct any Star Wars movies either, because it violates union rules.
Because of
but the credit. So, I mean, it's the only reason that George Lucas didn't get any trouble with 20th Century Fox is because he had somebody to help protect him. And then when it became a mega hit, then 20th Century Fox left him alone. So it's not like he just lucked out. I mean, it's not like if 20th Century Fox, if he didn't have Alan Ladd Jr., it might never have been made, or there might have been a lot of interference. So, I mean, it was just lucky. So, to answer your point, yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. If they fire her, they could get somebody even more afraid to stand up to the Disney execs.
If it's even a matter of being afraid of standing up to Disney execs, they might not even be standing up. It might be just like, for all we know, Kathleen Kennedy is either could be terrible at her job, or there's a mandate coming down saying X, Y, and she's just going through it. Like when Iger left, JPEG came in, he made Marvel produce like 100,000 new shows and like TV shows for Disney Plus, and I think movies, and that's why there was like just an onslaught of shows coming out, and people were like, the quality's going down. It's like because they're just producing so much, and I think Feige like wasn't able to oversee anything anymore. And Star Wars is a lot different. I think KG mentioned that Disney tried to Marvelize Star Wars, and I think they did. And I think for me, wrongly so, when Disney first acquired Lucasfilm, I was like, oh, this is exciting because they're doing such a good job with the MCU. They can do the same type of thing with Star Wars, and I think that was their plan. But I don't know if they did, but I learned very early on that Star Wars and the MCU are very different. And I think Star Wars is a lot closer. It's not exactly it, but it's a lot closer to like Lord of the Rings than it is the MCU. And I think people want to see more of like that epic storytelling. But maybe not, because Book of Boba Fett probably would have been a huge success had it just been John Wick with Boba Fett. I think that's people. I think we're in a weird. There's a. Do you know what's funny is when Solo came out, Josh at the Den of Nerds, his big prediction was that the movie. I think I mentioned this. The movie was going to end with Boba Fett, a Boba Fett chase similar to the Rogue One Darth Vader hallway scene. It was going to be on. He thought something on par with that was going to happen there, and obviously that never came to fruition. But like, yeah, I think people want to see that. And look, the way Boba Fett ended, I think you could still go and do something like that, because it was a complete story and he's just now a wiser individual. I think you could still do that. Maybe somebody kills the Rancor and he just goes on a quiet, crazy killing spree.
Okay.
Remember that Iger was still acting over Chapek when he took over. The biggest thing Chapek did was get Deadpool 3 produced besides some D+ shows. Kathy promised to keep Star Wars within George's vision. George sold it to Disney, and on that premise, we will never see the EU adapted, and I think that's what most people start with. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this last week. The EU is a massive problem because people can't seem to break away from that. I think. What do you guys think about this? Is maybe the first mistake that Disney made, if they made any? I guess it depends on how you view them. But I think based on all of these articles being written all over the place, people would suggest that they did make a mistake. Is maybe the first trilogy they should have kept Georgie Boy on. Maybe keep George Lucas in the fray so you have a good relationship with him, because a lot of the hate's coming from, well, George Lucas Star Wars and George Lucas wouldn't do this. And then he comes on TV and he's like, I sold he's not happy with the way Disney's running it. He kind of puts a lot of it down. Obviously, for PR purposes, I think they're inviting him to like the Mandalorian sets, and he's hanging out a lot more. He directed a scene in Solo. But I think right off the hop, when they kind of kicked him out the door and they let JJ do what he wanted to do, maybe in retrospect, they could have let George kind of stay on a little bit longer and have a little bit more of a voice just for their PR right off the hop.
Yeah, but George had a 100% voice with the prequels and a bunch of yes men around him, and look how well that turned out with the fans. And if you had done the EU stories, if you made movies about the EU stories, and people would have complained about, oh, they're not even original, they're just copying books that have already been written. And by the way,
Yeah, you-
everybody would want more Mara Jade. George Lucas hates Mara Jade.
Even more reason for Disney to do it.
oh, they're 100% doing my shit. You can't escape it. It'd be all
I
in on
think
that.
I think she would fit in right now, right with everything that they're doing. And I think that it's a possibility, like a big possibility.
Okay,
Especially
talk
with
us
young
through
Luke.
that.
I mean, with all the young Luke stuff coming up, was she not like a hidden hand of the Emperor protecting his cloning and making sure that his clone was facilitated and seen through to fruition? I mean, I
Mhm.
thought that was all the EU stuff. So Luke falling in love with her within that 30-year gap. Well, I'm just saying, like, maybe it doesn't have to be as written out in the books as it is, but I think there's a very easy way to shoehorn her in here and ruin everybody's fandom even more. But I'm here for it, for the record.
Well, speaking of which, I think there was I think there's like some comic books that came out about the Battle of Jakku, and it goes into
Yeah.
I didn't read it. I just heard online, but it goes into Leia dealing with Darth Vader's death and how she goes over to the armor. This is just what I heard. I haven't read it. So if somebody wants to correct me out there, I apologize. But apparently she's angry at him. She hates him. So it's just, I guess her feelings for him is how she originally felt with him in the EU. But I guess in the EU, she eventually makes up with him and even names her kid Anakin. But like he's like his suit was on fire and she picks up his mask and she like throws it on the ground or something because she just hates him so much. And Luke's trying to work with her not to have hate. So I think they are slowly trying to get some EU stuff in there. But like I said, you can't do stories just about the EU because then
Yeah.
what's the point?
Yeah, we've all read
I think
those
that they're-
stories. We all know what's happening.
Yeah. I think they're looking every single day of the week for ways to get her into the mix and Mace Windu as well. Even if it's short-lived flashback for him or something. But
Everybody has an opinion.
the young baby Anakin, though, that'd be crazy. Imagine. Mara Jade's son, Anakin. Do it, Disney, you coward.
I think you're onto something with me. I think Mace Windu's the one they're trying to figure out. I think.
Yeah. For sure.
Samuel Jackson keeps saying he's not dead. I'm not dead. I'm not dead.
No.
Bring me back.
Yeah.
And then there's a new book coming out, or it came out. Mace Windu, The Glass Abyss, or something. Like
really?
they're trying to find a way to get him to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it takes place, I guess, right after Qui-Gon. He has to Qui-Gon and finish business for Qui-Gon or something. Here's an idea: Mace Windu wakes up after Order 66. He's like, oh, he's in like some old hut, and he's like, "Where's my hand?" Like, it's been taken by the Empire. And then it's a John Wick style movie about Mace Windu killing everybody to get his hand back. John Wick.
I want to see Book of Boba Fett season 2, where Boba Fett has to face some new crime lord, and it turns out the crime lord is a very angry and bitter Mace Windu.
Okay.
I would like to see
Let's
him
go.
face Mace Windu. Like, you cut off my daddy's head.
He did
All
do
right.
that. He did do that.
Yeah, that would be. But why aren't they making that? There's a question for you.
Because only we're the only ones that want to see that. Just us three.
Just to be honest with you, James, we're the
Yeah.
only ones on the planet that want to see it. You know what? You're probably not wrong. I think what's frustrating for me on all this is that they have a property that people love. And I think I said this on another show, but Star Wars fans are willing to spend money on Star Wars. Like, we will go see a Star Wars movie. Now, Solo, I think, is the one X factor to all of that, where people say, well, Last Jedi pissed people off so much they didn't go see Solo. But Solo had a lot of issues going into it. Plus, on top of that, you add in that it's not Harrison Ford. On top of that, you add in, obviously, The Last Jedi. But then also, we just saw Han Solo die. So people are like, why do I want to go see this movie? I think there's a lot of factors going on in Solo for people not to see Solo. I really enjoy Solo. I think it's an underrated Star Wars film of all of them. But I think it's but for some reason they really cling to the reception of that over at Disney. And I don't like it's I don't understand how, like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, maybe they should make the Obi-Wan. I mean, now they won't, but maybe it should be a movie. Maybe I like just make it a movie now. Make it like, hey, we did this little show. It was about this, but now we're doing a movie, and it's a bigger adventure. But the problem with the movie, I guess, is you got to get rid of Vader in the next, whatever you do with Kenobi next, unless it's Anakin in a flashback. You got to get rid of Vader. They can't keep meeting. It will lose. You just keep going to that well. I don't know. You're gonna run out of water.
No, they already did. In my opinion.
Well, I'm wondering, like, would Solo have worked better if they had gone with George Lucas's original vision of hiring a 10-year-old actor to play a young Han Solo in Revenge of the Sith,
Mm-hmm.
and then have brought back that actor to play him in Solo, like they did with Ewan McGregor, because maybe they would have accepted him more.
I think if you got a younger actor playing him in the prequels, yeah, I think they would have been similar to that. But he wasn't a character that was ever recast. Same with Luke. And that's why I think they're afraid to recast Luke, because of the reaction Solo got. I think they're just like, oh, Solo failed because we recast Harrison Ford. We can't do that again. And we talk about this every week. We're beating a dead horse, but I think you totally can now. I think you can. I think I'm of two minds though. I'm on one part, I'm like, okay, we're good with Luke. But the other hand, it's like, maybe we should see how he gets to where he is in his headspace at least. Like, show us some Luke stories. But you can't AI it. Don't AI it. Don't deep fake it. Just cast somebody. And I think, honestly, the guy that they got, I know everybody's Sebastian Stan, whatever. But also, Sebastian Stan's going to end up being too old eventually. By the time they get to it, he'll be too old. But the guy that played him in the Mandalorian stuff, I think people would be okay with that guy playing a Luke Skywalker going forward. I don't know if he can act. I know he's a body double. I don't know if he can act, but like, I think people would be like, okay, they got this guy. You're right. He's fine. We're okay with that. I think people would be more on board with that. Maybe not a movie, but you start off as a show and see how that goes.
I wonder, like, if Solo would have worked if Harrison Ford had been at the beginning of it, and it had been like him thinking back to what happened.
100%. That was.
He did show up on set to congratulate Alden Ehrenreich.
Sebastian's too old, guys. He's playing Donald Trump now.
He's playing Donald Trump now. That's right.
He's too old.
Time is up. His time is up. Oh man.
Star Wars is a sacred cow that other shows aren't.
Agreed.
I mean, it took 40 some odd years, but they finally recast Star Trek, and for some reason, Star Wars people are just afraid to touch the original characters like that. But if you want to see the original characters, that's what you're going to have to do.
This right here is the mission statement. This should be on the wall in every room in Lucasfilm building, everywhere they work, because people should care about what Luke did. Yeah. And the fans that don't are the fans they desperately want back. The people who don't care about Luke Skywalker anymore, those are the fans you want back. And so that's why I think that they can, Ron, this is why I think they can win you back, because that right there is the one thing they can change. They need to make you care. And I think they can. I mean, they have so much damn money, dude. They could do literally anything they want. Any story that you think is appropriate for Luke Skywalker, they can do it. They just need to figure that shit out.
Here's a question though. How do you, and Ron, maybe you can, or anybody in the chat that has the same kind of feeling where they don't care. How do you win those fans back? Because they feel like they're too far gone, that they, like he just says here, that he knows where it ends. So obviously I think you could tell a story that can justify what he did in The Last Jedi that will make people happy. The problem is you have to get those people in the door on their couch, whatever, to see that through first. So you first have to get them to actually watch what you're doing. And if you've lost them, they're going to say no. And what you did with Luke, because they know it's going to end, now I think it's even harder to get them back in. So how would you, either one of you, do you have any suggestions on how you can get anybody back in for the Luke stuff?
I don't know. I just said maybe recast somebody. That's about all I can think of.
Yeah, I think
Unless
that's
you want
it
to do
too.
animated, but people aren't going to want animated. Here's the problem: some people, there's so many different fans with so many different opinions. You're not going to please everyone.
Nope.
Some people want you to move on, and some people want you to stay around with the same characters. So the people who want you to move on, they're going to be disappointed if you're sticking to Luke Skywalker. If you introduce new characters and everything, then they're going to be upset that they don't get Luke Skywalker. I don't know. Like I said, I know I keep bringing up the Lego special that was on recently,
I gotta watch it.
but I mean, there's 4 characters in this. They're brand new. Nobody remembers them. Yeah, they interact with original characters, but by the end of it, you end up caring about these 4 characters who are basically the main characters of the series. It's not Luke and Leia and Han and everybody. It's these 4 new characters, and you care about them, and you want the story to continue. So maybe you have to have them. Maybe you have to have new characters interact with older characters more. Maybe there is too much of a gap. I don't know, but the problem is we don't have the technology to do a full-blown Luke Skywalker adventure movie. And I don't know if I want that technology because of what it could be used for. So you're going to have to decide, do you want to recast? Do you want to do animation? Do you want to do Lego? I don't know. I could sit here and all day and talk about what I think, but it's not going to be answered because someone's going to disagree with me anyway.
No, I mean, I think that you're speaking to a lot of people. I think chat is kind of hitting it right on the nose. I'm of 2 minds. It's like either you move past all of the legacy Lucasfilm stuff and you start a brand new everything, you do all your own stuff, you write good stories, or I think the Luke stuff just stays way more contained and like literally pick it up the day after, episode 6. People need that. People need to know what the aftermath looked like. I don't think you have to have too much of Leia and Han in it for it to like do some time jump skip aheads to him searching the galaxy. There's people in chat commenting about loving Luke in the video games. All he's doing is going around opening Palpatine's vaults and finding artifacts, and like they hint on some of that stuff in the sequels. He's got all these Jedi texts, but like that's the juice that people want. Just fill in that stuff. Make it a TV show, make it a whatever, but we need Luke's story filled in or people won't care. They don't care.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm gonna go into Star Trek a little bit. Yeah, the original series, and then years later they came out with the Next Generation, and that took a long time before people finally got into it. What it was a really good. They introduced the Borg, and there was an episode called "The Best of Both Worlds," and it was a 2-parter with the Borg, and that's when all the fans started to love Next Generation. Then they brought in Deep Space Nine, which was something completely different. It took place against aboard a space station. It was completely different than anything from Star Trek, and that took a long time to get its footing. But once it did, it is arguably some of the best Star Trek there is. It's Deep Space Nine. So if you take the time and work with it and let it get its footing, it might be able to do that. I don't know.
That's why I'm the type of fan I get excited about the shit that no one else gets excited about. Like when they literally open a portal and go to another galaxy, a completely new galaxy, Peridia. Like what's going on over there, Disney? Why don't you just go over there and do an entire show? And like, oh, here's Peridia, but guess what? Its sun is orbited by 7 other planets, and guess what? The Chiss are there, or whoever else. Like, just get away from Luke Skywalker as far as you want. You know what I mean? Do your time jumps for the next sequel, but you're always going to have that fan base that is like, what about my Luke Skywalker? What about my Blanky?
I think,
what about, you know?
Absolutely, but I think they're on that track. This is my thought is, and I thought this before and I was wrong, but I think they're on that path right now with, I think, Ahsoka, the Mandoverse stuff, where I think Filoni kind of said, because they're like, where are all these people during the sequels? And like, well, they can exist, they just might not be in the same spot. So I honestly think, and I've said this a billion times, so sorry to sound like a broken record, but I think they're going to turn left when the sequel trilogy turns right, and you're going to just see, and I think what Goof R35 is saying, I think what's going to happen is you're going to see them kind of leave the sequel trilogy here for a rainy day. Like if fans come around to it, like they did the prequels, they'll go back to it. But for now, you're going to follow your Ezra, your Sabine, your Ahsoka, your Mando, your Grogu's, Bo-Katan, who, as long as she survives, you can follow all those down the road, and we're not going to know. Like the sequel stuff will still be there, but we're going to go this way and we're going to follow them. And so to the Chad's point, with these new characters now, because you can also spin off new characters from there, as the new characters will be the ones that we're going to follow and cling along to. And I kind of hope that's the direction they go with, because then I think, especially when you look back, because the Star Wars fandom was super fractured. Sounds so dramatic. Star Wars fans could not recover. The Last Jedi was financially recover. Yeah. How could you do this to me? But the Star Wars fans, though, like after The Last Jedi, there was like that big divide, and everyone hates Star Wars and blah blah blah. And I'll tell you, man, if you put Kathleen Kennedy on a thumbnail with laser eyes, that video skyrocketed, man. That put me through college. I'm way older than that. but if you did that, your video got views, and that's, people learn that, and that's how they roll. But anyway. But I think when Mando came out, if you remember, it was like a cleansing of our Star Wars souls. Everybody loved Mando. Everybody was on Team Mando. There are people that are like, oh, it wasn't that great, but nobody hated it. Nobody complained. They didn't break lore.
They were on Team Grogu. They were on Team Grogu.
Yeah.
Everyone loved Grogu.
Mando meant nothing. He still means nothing.
You know what's funny is that first episode is like, it's
off.
Okay. I remember watching that first episode. I'm like, this is okay. It wasn't like as spectacular as I was hoping it would be. I just remember when you see Baby Yoda, I was like, that is I think we said this on the podcast. It's like, that was probably the single greatest thing Disney had done since buying it, and since, because they just did something that every fan and non-fan gravitated to in an instant. They made the cutest little puppet, and everyone was I would watch it with my wife, and every time he would do anything, she'd be like, baby, like she just freaked out. And there were no toys, not one toy.
Well, and here's the thing, that's something we didn't know we wanted.
Yes,
until
absolutely.
They gave it to us.
Do you remember Star Wars Celebration that year was in Chicago? I was supposed to go, but I couldn't go. Andrew was there, but he didn't get into the panel. But they had the Mandalorian panel. All the actors came on. Favreau came on. Filoni came on. They're all there. And there's a part in this thing. You can watch it. It's on YouTube, I think, still, where Jon Favreau says, he's like, I know I think he's like, the OT fans, we got a lot in here for you. And he's got this smug smile. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be so much fun. Little did I know that whole panel, however long it was, they had Baby Yoda in their back pocket. At any time that thing was going south, they'd just be like, look what we got. Look what we got. The fact that they kept it a secret, they still know what they're doing. But anyway, my point is that show felt like a cleanse for the Star Wars fandom. And what I'm thinking is, you get back on track. I know people felt like Mando season 3 fell off, but it also blows my mind that you have 2 solid episodes of Mando, one that people don't seem to like, and apparently it's like You can't fix Mando anymore. It's dead. DOA. You watch if the movie should be good. I hope it's good. You do that, and now people are back like, okay, I have faith in Star Wars once again. I think that's why they're starting with a Mando and Grogu movie to get and it's going to be a low budget. I think they're trying to win the fans back slowly. They're like, hey, you like this? Here you go. We'll give you this. Trust us on the next one. We know we lost your trust. Here's our nugget right now. I think that's what it is. I think they're reaching out for us to trust them again. Now, if the movie doesn't deliver, that's a whole other ball game. But I think if it does, then okay, not everybody's going to come back, but there'll be people that are like, all right, maybe I'm going to go check this out now. Or, I don't want to see it because I hate what they've been doing. And Scotty, you're like, James, that movie was great. I'm like, eh. And Heidi's like, James, best movie of the year. How do I not go see that? How do I not bother with that? So I think, not that I don't think it's going to be the best movie of the year. Don't get me wrong, but I think they're doing this as their olive branch. Mando and Grogu is the olive branch that Disney is putting on fans, being like, we know you love these characters, save for season 3. Trust us. They're going to make that movie good, and we're all going to go watch it, and Star Wars will be alive and well.
See, I have absolutely no problem with Star Wars going from the Jedi to the Mandalorians.
Yeah.
I have no problem with Grogu being the chosen one.
That'd be cool.
There could be more than one chosen one. Who knows?
I think there is.
Be
I
the
think
next person to bring balance.
And by the way, you
always
have
gonna
not
ebb and
seen
flow.
Lego.
We'll watch that. But to Ron's point here,
really
I
do.
love The Mandalorian, but I said in the comments that it was unfortunate that it would ultimately end with the sequels. But I don't think it's going to end with the sequels. I think the sequels is an isolated Skywalker trilogy now, and we are going beyond that somewhere else into a new storyline that's going to end elsewhere, I think.
Right, and
I
you have
could be wrong.
Thrawn, you have Dathomir, you have Cal Kestis, you have all these other characters that are kind of like continuing to build out this extended universe. I mean, it really is a Disney extended universe that they're building around the main saga now. And for all intents and purposes, the sequels really were just to try to put a nice bow, or as nice of a bow as you could, on the Skywalker saga. And there were so many factors. I mean, the passing of Carrie Fisher, like so many unseen things. So yeah, not everything went as planned, but it's like, I feel like you're right about the Grogu stuff and the fact that like, here's a young character we can watch grow now. I feel like Skeleton Crew is another really good play, because even George Lucas to this day will say that Star Wars is for the damn kids, man. It's for the kids. Yep. So they're in this weird limbo. It's like the passing of the guard to the next generation of fans, but they're still trying to make mature content. They're still trying to make the aged old trilogy content of the legacy characters that we want to see. I think they just got to kind of move one side or the other, like start your new character story with your kids and let us grow up with these new characters, or go well beyond Luke and just have Rey teaching new kids, and those kids are the focus, but I don't think they're going to be trying to appeal to us old heads for much longer.
And here's another thing. I think the Mandalorian universe, they're not part of the New Republic, so they might not have been affected by the First Order.
Yeah, and then we'll get some Old Republic stuff too, which I think is going to be really exciting. I hope they can pull it off. So,
I mean, the Mandalorians might not have been involved. What's the planet that Carl Weathers was head of?
Navarro.
So Navarro and Mandalore, they might not have been part of the Old Republic. They weren't part of the Rebellion War, so they could have a whole other story going on that has nothing to do with the Resistance or the First Order.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, everyone who's voting Andor, you're old. That's it. You're just old.
Oh, that's wild right now. Is it 40? Is it tied 40? Kenobi's like the Lord. I got to log on and vote. I'm not allowed to vote. I can't.
Guys,
vote.
I cannot watch the 69th retelling of the stealing of the Death Star plans. Please don't make me do it. Please, I'll pay you whatever you want.
I'm excited for season 2. Look at this. 43%, 43%, and 14%.
I mean, he's kidding.
3, 3, and 1.
He's kidding. If it comes out, I'll watch it. But I like I said, if it comes out in a show or movie, I'll watch it. But I really don't want to see something about the stealing of the second Death Star plans because it's pretty much for nothing. So
Yeah, exactly. We know where that ends, Ron. Okay, they're gonna blow it up.
See, I think they're gonna. I think all roads leading away from the sequel trilogy. Honest, I think new direction. Some else having issue with the Rey movie is. I think it's weird that they. I think they don't trust their product right now, and they have to figure that out. No problem. But is Star Wars, has Disney ruined Star Wars beyond repair? I think it's a tough question to answer because I think it can be repaired, but I think it's going to take time. I think they're going to have to lay some groundwork for it. It's not just going to be Andor season 2 or Skeleton Crew. But you know what? If Skeleton Crew is really good, which I don't know, there's something with that show that I just have this good feeling about it. They're going to win back a lot of people, but it's going to take more than just one, eight episode show to do that. And I think Mando and Grogu is the first step. I don't know how they can do it, but I think Star Wars is such a strong brand. Brock and I talked about it a couple weeks on the podcast. We have a friend, not a Star Wars fan, but he goes to all the Star Wars movies with us when we used to be able to go. Doesn't even care about Star Wars. Doesn't watch them on his own, whatever. But he called me and he was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting Outlaws on PS5." And I was like, "Oh yeah?" I know nothing about it because I don't have a PS5 and I don't want to know. But he was intrigued by it. And Star Wars still, to the normies out there, to casual fans, it still has name recognition. People still see Star Wars and there's an idea of what it is. Whether or not it turns out to be that, it's a different story. But there's an idea of Star Wars. So I think Star Wars still has that. Now, if you keep milking the cow and the cow keeps spitting out green milk, I think then it starts to lose that luster a little bit. So for me, I know Goof says this all the time, but I think you got to slow it down. I know they always say they're going to, and then something's a hit and they're like, just keep pumping it out. Slow it down. I loved going to the movies every Christmas, every year. Don't get me wrong. But every 3 years was like, you got excited, right? You had 3 years between movies. You're like, what's going to happen in the next Star Wars? And then the name would drop. You're like, we got the name. And it was like an exciting time. You had 3 years, which is a long time, but you have if you did 3 years now, and then you gave us a Disney Plus show in between that time, that's so much more than we used to get. But you got to focus on quality over quantity, and you've got to stick with the themes that represent Star Wars, the lore of Star Wars, and the mythology of Star Wars, and you gotta drive those home because that really is why we're here. So I think Disney can they have to change their PR first and foremost, but I think it can be fixed. Fix your PR problem, and then go back to what makes Star Wars Star Wars. And if you have to take George Lucas's yellow notepad to do it, go to his house and steal the damn thing. He doesn't have a safe. It's probably on his couch right now with like a old pencil that he sharpens with a knife. It's just like, I got to write Wells. American Graffiti is an amazing movie, by the way. Heidi, anything you want to add? We could talk about American Graffiti too. I love it.
I don't know. I hope they can save it. I think it can be saved. The only problem about 3 years between movies is attention spans have changed a lot. So
yeah,
3 years.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
3 years is an eternity for people.
Good point. Yeah.
I mean, I have my ideas. I don't know if they're right or not because someone's going to disagree with me. And something I like about Star Wars, I love Reylo, and other people say, "Oh, Reylo's stupid. That sucks." That's the problem. People have different opinions and they want different things. And you can't, like I said, you can please all the people some of the time, but you can't please some of the people all the time. I would say maybe listen to positive criticism and not flames.
I can't remember the terms they used, Scotty, but they were phenomenal.
Which ones?
What, the hate memers or something?
Oh, the edge lords. Yeah,
Edge
dude.
lords.
Don't
Edge
stop.
lords, man.
Yeah, there's literally people out there who only make comments to be edgy. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I get them on
I
the channel. I'm
think-
sure you do too.
I think, no offense, Ron, I think that the all, everything, everywhere, always leads to the sequels is a very edgy take. And I feel like people say that a lot, but literally, yes, we know everything leads to the sequels and then it will go beyond it. But if every piece of content they make now before the sequels is just trash because it leads to them, then how do we even have a conversation? I don't know.
I think you have to accept the sequel. If you don't like the sequels, you have to accept that they're there. You don't have to like them, but you have to accept that they're. So yeah, the roads are going to lead there. But I think KG said it's like the journey. Isn't the journey very important? Like we can find out how they got there. And the Clone Wars, Heidi, you've mentioned this, Brock's mentioned this, everybody's mentioned this, that the Clone Wars animated series fleshed out the prequels for a lot of people and made people appreciate the prequels a lot more than they did when they first came out, because you're getting more information, you're getting little backstories here and there. And I think the more you get, like Mandalorian season 2, I think when they started hinting at Snoke, and then it turned out maybe it wasn't Snoke. Like that was exciting. It's like, oh man, are we going to get more here? Are we going to actually find out more about this cloning and what's going on? Shadow Council was talking about stuff like that. You can do more to educate the fans going into it. And when I mean educate, I don't mean that in like a degrading way. I mean, you tell us like what is the point? Where are we going? Now, the difference between Clone Wars and this is George Lucas had an idea, and it was all his vision going into Clone Wars and the movies that he made. But that being said, you know damn well he made that crap up as he went along. There's no way he wrote Phantom Menace. It was like, and then because the Mortis gods are over here. I don't think so. I know he could say he had all that stuff. I'm sure wills was a word, but let's be real. He figured that out later than Ewoks. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm sure he had a lot of stuff written down, but he made stuff up as he went along.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that, call me crazy, but I think Disney has heard the fans loud and clear and agree with you that the sequels were a problem. That's why immediately we got Grogu and the Mandalorian, and we got Ahsoka, and they're fleshing out Ahsoka's story. They get it. That's why they're not going in and doing more of the sequel stuff. We're getting Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Sith, Tales, you know what I mean? Like, they're listening to you, bro. I truly do believe that they are listening to the fans that hate the sequels, and they're sick of hearing about it, just like everybody else.
They're on the verge of selling it back to George
it's
Lucas.
like they're literally going to time jump Rey until she has gray hair. Like, that's how much they are listening. So
yeah, they were.
I don't know how much more Disney has to prove that they're like, yeah, we get it, bro. Didn't like it.
I mean, just go to Disney World or Disneyland and see that huge Galaxy's Edge. Like, they can't give up on it.
Well, even
way too much money.
Even Galaxy's Edge, I think, still has potential. That's a planet that exists in Star Wars. I would love them to do, and I know they never will, but other IPs have done things where like events within a game affect a place in real life, or like events within a show affect a game that's related. Like, that place needs to have something happen to it in a movie that changes the theme park, in my opinion. And they do a world event, brings a bunch of people in. They'll never do it, but like, you want people to be immersed when they go there, put it in a movie, put the actor that plays a character in the movie in the park. You know what I mean? Like, you don't think someone who is paid to be in the park full time would love a cameo in a movie? Like, come on.
Well, the only
Pay me,
planet,
Lucasfilm.
The only planet Star Wars ever goes back to is Tatooine. Every time they always go to a new planet.
And this planet, I think, will take over as a new, Outer Rim type area, but it's just.
I mean, it was mentioned in the Lego Holiday Special where Vader says, "I went to Back 2 to get you this cup for a Life Day." That's what I mentioned. I've heard. Yeah.
Would you guys be against getting another holiday special? Would that win fans back?
No. The Muppets was good.
Muppets were very good. Like I think Star Wars is in a. It's not obviously it's not in a healthy place on some level because everybody's talking about it, and we're the problem is we got Skeleton Crew December 3rd, which is still 2 months away, which means we have 2 months of clickbait articles telling us that Star Wars is dead and Star Wars, all the negativity that drives people to their sites, that's going to be coming for the next 2 months. But you've got to think though, with all this weird press that's going around, like it's weird press. It is weird that you think with all this going around that Disney / Lucasfilm is going to have to say, hey, the Skeleton Crew has to be good. Because the Skeleton Crew is not, if they have another acolyte on their hands and people don't show up for this, then I think Star Wars is in this week's Unleashed episode is Star Wars in crisis. And I think if Skeleton Crew is not good and people don't turn into it, then I think Star Wars is in crisis mode.
Agreed.
Well, what's that? Who said no publicity is bad publicity?
Yeah,
So
yep, there is
you're
that.
still talking, even if it's bad, you're still talking about Star Wars. It's not forgotten. It's
And here's the
better-
other thing too, is like people love a train wreck. Like all these haters are watching, they're gonna watch Skeleton Crew. They're just waiting for the next big disaster out of Lucasfilm so they can make their videos. So the initial like 1-2 episodes always get the views. They just need something to pop. They just need, they need that
I'm
Grogu
curious,
magic, baby.
I've got a few videos coming on Skeleton Crew because I'm very excited for it. Like, what's going on with? There's got to be a hook, right? Like, what's the hook of Skeleton Crew? And I think with Jude Law, I have faith that there's going to be something wild going on.
Well, he's a new kind of Jedi, didn't you hear?
Yeah, I did. He's a pirate.
I hate that
Jedi.
shit. Don't say that. Stop saying stuff like that. He's just
That's
a guy who knows the Force and uses it in a way. Stop saying he's a different Jedi. Like, because now everyone's already made their assumptions, right? You're hyped because you think he's a different kind of Jedi. We don't know. They're just using keywords. Damn it.
Exactly. That's part of the problem. Is
it's
their
all
PR,
AI
their
algorithm
PR
keywords.
nightmare. That's how they make things nowadays. But I don't know. I have faith in it. I think he's just going to be like a pirate who kind of lost his moral way through his journey as from Order 66 onward. And at the end of the series, I predict he will go back to becoming the perfect Jedi he once was. He might even. How many Jedi can still be alive? Like at some point, you got to. Although didn't
George Lucas
say
himself
like
said tens of thousands. So
okay. Oh, okay, and I do have a question for you, Scotty, because Heidi, I don't think you've played Star Wars Outlaws. Have you, Heidi? Have you played Outlaws? Yeah, no, and I've never played it because I own a PS4.
I don't have a video game system.
Okay, we need to fix that because you need at least a Game Boy. But Scotty, you've played Outlaws. You've done it on your channel. And you're a positive Star Wars guy, which is a phrase that I absolutely despise, by the way. It's like, you're a positive Star Wars. What the hell does that mean? But you haven't been totally enamored with this game, right? Like you're like, it's absolutely. Anyway, I'll let you say your piece on it. I don't want to put words on it in your mouth.
No, I mean, it is definitely made for Star Wars fans, but the story is not a Jedi Survivor story where it's like, wow, this Cal Kestis character could really go places, and it opens up like a whole other potential, like the Koba Abyss and like all of these things, like a hidden Jedi temple within inside this wormhole. What the hell? Like, there's no like famous actors portraying characters in it, so I really just think it's like, in Ubisoft is getting destroyed. Absolutely destroyed. Like they literally might go under because of this and the next Assassin's Creed. We're finding out how much money they just lost on another game too. It's like they might just not do games anymore after this. But this game for me overall, it doesn't have a very like shocking spoiler plot line to it. The plot line is very linear to Star Wars. The main big bad is the expected big bad, which was super disappointing for me. And I mean, there's tons of lore within the game about the syndicates and, you know, all the planets, lots of OT goodness in there, but very niche, very, you know, if you're an Assassin's Creed fan or Ubisoft game fan, you'll like the game a lot. Like, it has tons to offer, 20 hours of gameplay or something to beat it. But it's like the first Star Wars game in a long time where I'm always the guy that's like, the cinematics are way better than the gameplay. And it's like, these cinematics don't even spoil much. So it's like mediocre, really good game with mediocre plot as far as a Star Wars, like, you know, overall, it doesn't really move the timeline in any crazy fashion for me.
Well, why did
Filler.
they
I'd call it filler, I guess. I don't know. Feels bad.
Why did they cancel? That was that one game that everybody was looking forward to. Was like a first shooter
Like
Mando
Mandalorian
game.
style. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and then
think
it
it would
got
have just, I think, no, it was like
Oh.
some underground Mandalorian thing. I think it just would have been
Oh yeah,
this.
yeah.
I think it really would have been similar to this game, just like maybe more of like the Mandalorian factions and not the syndicates, just going after bounties. Like, I feel like that kind of a game could literally be an expansion to this game, and you could just play as a bounty hunter and go do those things. So there are like, it feels so bad because it's like they did a lot of things other games do well, just not as good as those other games, because they tried to put them all into one big package, you know. So
I mean,
even the driving, sorry, last thing, even the driving
No,
in the
it's okay.
game leaves something to be desired, because it's this massively open world, but you can't like take another vehicle that someone's riding on. You can't just like boot them off and get on their vehicle. You're really restricted to just your bike the whole game. So they're huge, massive open world, but you just feel like so small within it, I feel sometimes.
I mean, what do you think's better, boring an audience or angering them?
Boring.
I'll tell
bore an
you.
audience.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to choose, first of all, Heidi, I like boring movies. Aaron will tell you that if a movie is boring, I probably will give it a 5-star rating on Letterboxd. But I think if you bore an audience, they're like, well, that was boring, and then they kind of move on. But if you anger an audience, now they have a platform to voice that anger, and then it's you know what I do think. This is what I believe, and maybe I'm wrong. And Scotty, you can answer that. I'm just joking. This is what I think, though. Let me know what you guys think for real, though. Is I think a lot of these, I think they're called grifters. These are terms that I'm learning. I'm 43. These are terms I'm learning. But I think a lot of these people who come on YouTube and they just hate Star Wars. They're like, I hate Disney, I hate Star Wars. I think most of them, maybe not all of them, obviously, but I think a lot of them came from a genuine place where they went into whatever it was, The Last Jedi, whatever, Rise of Skywalker, whatever. They went in and they came out and they go, well, that wasn't, they weren't happy. They didn't like how Luke was treated. They didn't like this and that. And then they came on this platform here and they said, I didn't like that. And then they got a comment and then another comment and they all were agreeing with them. And all of a sudden they go, yeah, I'm onto something. And their little bit of disliking whatever starts to snowball. And you start to believe your own hype, right? So I really think that that they genuinely don't like what they're talking. Well, I think I think a lot of it's snowballing out of proportion now, but I think it all started at a genuine spot, and then people just fed into it, and then you start to believe it, and then you're like, I got to keep going down this path, and all of a sudden, all you see is red, and I'm just gonna start spewing this, and because I don't think it's just because everyone's like, oh, they're just doing it for the monetization, for this and that. I think that's a part of it, but I honestly think it's just like, man, you watched the first Joker movie. Nobody saw the second one, but like a crowd swarms around this guy. And when you feed off of that, you get that, like any professional wrestler, what do they say? The crowd cheering them on, right? That's how it feels. And all of a sudden, like, I got this. I got to keep going. Like the money's,
man.
Yeah, like the monetizing is great for them and all, but it's not coming from that. It's coming from a genuine place, and they feel empowered, and that's why they're doing it. And you can't argue with it. Like, and I don't like, if you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. But I think that a lot of them, not all of them, there are the ones that come out that clearly just start their channels because they hate it. But a lot of them started from a genuine place. And I do believe that not all of them, but some of them could be won back with some good Star Wars. You give them some good material, something worthy of them, like something that reminds them of the joy that Star Wars brings. Star Wars is all about, and I don't care what anyone says, it's all about joy. It's all about me when I was 7 years old with my Ewok village and Yoda getting stuck in my Tauntaun. That's where Star Wars is born. I'm the playbox. Playbox? Is that a word? I made that up. Sandbox.
Toy box.
Toy box.
Toy chest.
Mm-hmm.
It's made up when your mom takes you to the toy store and gets the employee to take the Ewok village off the top shelf. That's where Star Wars. That's what Star Wars is. It's a joy that it brings a young kid.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, is it better to have people talk about it and be angry about it, or is it better to be forgotten about?
All press is good press, right? Very, very true. Very true. I mean, people. Acolyte's a weird. So okay, let's bring this up then. Acolyte fails. Nobody watches it. It gets canceled. The views are low. But YouTube was ablaze with videos. And Heidi, you were on some live streams with me, and we got good views for this channel.
Oh.
Like, they're not obviously the millions and thousands, but they were good views for this channel, especially of late. So people were intrigued by the show that they weren't watching. Or were they watching it illegally just to see the train wreck, like Scotty said? Because this show, people were talking about this show from before its release. And yeah, that's a good point though, because where were these eyeballs if they weren't watching it? Did they all go to one person? Was there one person having a screening party every week for 400,000 people? Crammed in his little theater? I don't know. But that's a good point. No press is bad press.
I mean, like on this, I wrote this story on a beta site, and if anyone's read my books, they usually don't have happy endings. And spoilers, and somebody wrote and I don't understand this, but she wrote in, she's like, I'm so mad. I wasted my whole day. I sat here for 20 hours and read this whole book, and that's the ending I got. And I said, yeah, but you still sat there for 20 hours and read the book. So at least until the ending, you were very engrossed.
And the ending, see, that's an important thing too that I think gets forgotten about too. Is speaking of Joker, the second Joker ends in a place that's dividing a lot of fans and making people really pissed off. And I think you have to and I think Luke dying did this as well, because I still don't think his arc is as powerful as like they thought it would be. I don't think it resonated the way they thought it would with people. But you have to leave. And I know it kind of ends with hope, but the movie has, even Empire Strikes Back, you have to end it in a place where people are like, that was awesome. Like Rogue One, if the Vader scene in Rogue One is 20, 30 minutes earlier, I don't know if people talk as highly about that movie as they do today. But it ends at a place where you're like, oh, Vader, Leia. And then you leave and you're like, that was awesome. And I still, every time I watch it, I'm like, man, the first half hour, 45, it's very clunky. Like the movie is pretty clunky. It kind of chugs. You're like, okay, planet. But that ending, when it ends, I'm like, screw that. That was the best thing I've ever seen. You need a strong finale. You're absolutely right. It's got to end strong. Now, it doesn't have to be positive. I like unhappy endings. But even Empire Strikes Back, where the Empire wins, what's the last thing you see? Our heroes looking out at a window of a space station, and the future is in front of them. And you're like, oh, they're coming back. They're John Wicking it the next time we see them. That's what it is. It's, you got to feel like you're in a good spot. Even if it's a downer, you have to be like, we got this. For a movie. Books are different.
I don't know. What if a Star Wars movie ended like The Lady or the Tiger? I don't know if you know the story. Sorry.
Do you think it would work?
I don't know if you know the story, or I think it would make people. It doesn't. It ends with, it's one of those things where a guy has to choose a door. One is a lady, and the other's a tiger, and it's up to the reader which door he chooses. So a lot of people get angry when they read that book. But
all right.
Choose your own adventure. I love that.
I love Choose Your Own Adventure.
It's not Choose Your Own Adventure. It's just choose your own ending.
That's cool though.
So I'm wondering how like Star Trek fans would react to. I mean, Star Wars fans would react to something like that if it just ended, kind of like The Sopranos ending.
I would, that would be great. The movie just ends, and then it's like, stick around for the post credit if you want to know how it could have ended. If you liked the ending, you can leave now. You know what I mean? Turn to page X for. That's.
I would like Star Wars to. That'd be, man. Could they do like a choose your own adventure on Disney Plus for Star
Netflix?
Wars?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like how
Did
fun
you
would
watch
that be?
Bandersnatch?
No.
Everybody in this chat, if you have not seen the Bandersnatch, you need to go look that up. It's a Netflix interactive movie show.
I remember they were doing interactive. Yeah, I
Yeah.
never watched any of that.
Dude, it's incredible. Like, not to side tangent, but I will because it's new media that you probably haven't experienced. But like the kid comes down for breakfast in the morning, sits down at the table, and dad's having a conversation, and he's like, "Hey, what do you think about this Captain Crunch or this blah, blah, blah?" And he's holding a box out, and that just it's like hovering there, just the box, and a little thing comes up. It's like, eat this one or eat this one,
Oh,
based
really?
on literally another scene rolls through live as soon as you answer the question, and there's multiple endings to it and how it goes based on the choices you
They
make.
should do that for Star
They
Wars,
said they were
man.
going to do more of that.
Sounds like a game on Steam.
It's
Yeah,
the craziest thing I've ever been a part of. I love
it's like Until Dawn.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Man,
it's still out there.
Aaron and I used to play Until Dawn a lot, and then one time we got drunk and we played it, and we tried to keep all of our guys alive, and we killed somebody. Until Dawn, a video game, not a real life. Jeez.
In game.
I thought it was
In-game.
Andrew.
Oh, it's Black Mirror. Sorry, yeah, it's
Black
Black
Mirror did that, really.
Black Mirror Bandersnatch. Yeah, everybody go look
Black-
that up.
The Bandersnatch. Oh, you wrote that down. The Blue
Yeah,
Panther Puffs.
Yes, exactly.
I want to bring something up again with the Acolyte and some of the
Okay.
kerfuffle that it caused, and that is Kiadi Mundi.
Oh, who cares?
And-
Next.
Seriously.
But no, I know I'm with you on. You know, wow, I know that I don't care, but it pissed a lot of people off that they did that, and so I just want to ask. So clear your mind of all your thoughts, and just think about this. Do you think characters like that? Can't believe we're having this. They should treat with more care based on the lore that they provided in the past of some of these characters in terms of age, in terms of where they are at any given time. Because for me, Kiadi Mundi, first of all, I didn't even know it was him until the credits. Secondly, he's only popular because of a meme. Let's be real here. His death is wild, though. But, like, do you think as part of the way to repair Star Wars is to go back and look at things like that and maybe have somebody say, you know what, that might not be such a great idea, instead of just, oh, you should throw him in there, because fans are psychotic and they know more about Star Wars than George Lucas does. Fans know more about Star Wars than George Lucas does, because when George Lucas made Star Wars, fans were like, that's not Star Wars. What are you doing? Star Wars has gone beyond him. So, like, do you think they should, like, maybe tread a little more lightly on lore and characters like that?
Well, the problem with that is the angry voices are louder than calm ones. So you could have
Yes.
100 people in a room, and 99 people might like something, and one person doesn't. And the one person who complains is going to be the loudest. And something that bothers one person is not going to bother most of the fans.
James, can you bring me in real close for this one? Can you bring me in real close?
That's
Nope.
me.
Nope, me. Other one.
Hold on.
If you can't,
Hold on,
it's
I'm
okay. I
learning.
just want
I'm learning.
Lucasfilm. I just want Lucasfilm to make sure that they hear me with this one. Okay, I'm gonna look right into the camera. If you don't want me to care about this stuff, stop writing it in encyclopedias. That's it.
Oh,
That's it.
Well, they don't
For
do
me.
those anymore. That's another problem. But they don't do encyclopedias anymore. I think because they
Cool.
they
Like,
play these
if it
things
doesn't
so
matter to
loosey
you,
goosey.
it doesn't
Well,
matter to me then.
you
You
have
know,
a
it's
point,
just
though.
like,
You do have a point because I don't really care about the Kiadi Mundi stuff because I don't have any of those encyclopedias and I wasn't that
Exactly.
invested in that character or anything like that. But you are absolutely right though. If somebody was like, I'm going to go out and buy this book on Kiadi Mundi, and it's apparently a canon book or it's it's whatever, I could see you have
Yeah.
a fair point there.
Yeah, but does Disney or Lucasfilm know what goes in these encyclopedias exactly?
right.
Well,
Like, if it
Pablo
doesn't
Hidalgo
matter
makes
to
them all.
you, right. I just need to know if that shit matters personally. Like, if it doesn't, I'll stop caring about it. And then my expectations will be lowered by you as the studio who's creating the content. You tell me where I should level my expectations, because right now I think we're all just winging it.
Okay, but
And that-
I had the original Return of the Jedi novel from 1983,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
mentions that Obi-Wan Kenobi is
I have that too.
Owen Lars's brother. So
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, there is a difference though, Heidi, because I hear what you're saying. I agree with you, and I have that book too. But the difference is George Lucas did what he did, and he made things up as he went along. Obviously, there was no internet, but now we live in a time. And look, man, I could say 10 minutes ago that Star Wars and the MCU are very different, but we live in an MCU world where everything connects and everything matters. And when you come out, when you are Lucasfilm and you come out 12 years ago and you say we are pushing the EU aside, it's going to be called Legends. When you do that and you say everything we do going forward is going to connect, and right away everything starts feeling disjointed, there's a deception there now, right? Whereas with George Lucas stuff, he's like, nah, I don't consider that canon. Like he had his way of just being like, I do what I do, everything else is whatever. But now we live in a time when they told us they're like, hey, all of this is going to matter. And right away they're like, it's not going to matter. So at what point, is Scotty's right, is at what point do you say, you know what? Maybe this shouldn't have mattered to me either.
well, here's the thing: I'm always bringing up your real poof, and nobody knows who he is. But the only reason I know who he is because he's always the butt of jokes on Robot Chicken.
Mhm.
He's up there
I
with
love
Gary
Robot
the.
Chicken.
He's up there with
What do
Gary
you
the
mean they blew
Stormtrooper.
up the Death Star? Oh God, he's crying.
But
Sorry.
the whole point is like there's a whole group of us who know who your real poof is just from Robot Chicken. Otherwise, we would have no idea who this guy is because he was just some weird background character in the Phantom Menace. I don't even think he had a death scene in Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I guess I'm just go along with the story and what they tell me. I mean, when I watched the prequels, I was like, okay. I thought Leia remembered her mother. Now she dies in childbirth. So I didn't understand what's going on. So years later, they make it a Force ability. So, they can use the Force Ex Machina anything in Star Wars and give an explanation. I was one of those people, I was an OT fan, not the biggest fan of the prequels. But I accept that they are canon. And my thing is, it's not that I didn't like the story. I wasn't the biggest fan of how it was all like crammed together. So if someone's out of place, it's a story. Maybe the story's not being told right from our. I mean, what I'm saying is, if you look at it like you're listening to a legend or you're watching a legend, sometimes when you tell a story, something's out of place. It's not right. If you look at it as I'm seeing it as it's being told to be, not that I'm seeing it as it's actually happened, then there's a little bit more leeway. I'm different than most people. I'm not going to sit and nitpick. I might say, yeah, why is this? But I'm not going to let it ruin the movie for me or the TV show.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
that's like
there's
a lot of people let like Rey's knowledge of Luke Skywalker or lack thereof ruin the movie for them. And it's like even people who are writing the story and close to it, like I think even Dave Filoni, it's like the perspective of the point of view of these characters is they know very little about Luke Skywalker. He is literally a legend. So it's like they're not doing things because of him. He's done it before them. It's just a part of Star Wars. Like, yeah.
I think they mishandled a lot of Luke in the sequels, but
For sure.
not in the same way everybody else does. I think they overvalued all of the original trilogy characters in the sequels, to be honest. And I've said this before, and I think people hate it when I say it, but honestly, I think they did. And I think when Rey is like, Luke Skywalker, I thought he was a myth. I think that line is just too, like, it's like, why is he a myth? And I think I've said this on this show, and I've said it before. It's like, okay, why is he a myth? Because nobody knew what he did. He was with Han, Leia, and Chewie. He wasn't on the Death Star. Nobody knew he was there. And like, he didn't do anything flashy. It wasn't about that. And so I think, and that's part of the fleshing out they can do, right? Is how did it get to this point? How did he become this myth? Because I always was like, but why is that? When she said that line, I'm like, why is he a myth? Why? And I write down, like, they were writing the movie, in my opinion, they're writing the movie from our vantage point as fans looking in. They weren't looking in the world, looking out the way Filoni just mentioned. It's almost like there were two in that universe. And there were two outside the universe looking in. When Luke, to me, and like, this actually has nothing to really do. He still could have gone to Ahch-To and did what he did, even if he wasn't this giant myth. I just was like, I think you're overvaluing this guy. And I think, and this is going to be controversial, because The Last Jedi is pretty low on my totem pole of movies. It's not the lowest, though. I think it's the most underrated, most overrated Star Wars movie. That's what I always say. It could be your favorite, it could be your least favorite, but that's not what I'm saying. But for me, I think Rian Johnson kind of and I think a lot of what he did didn't work in terms, like, the way he thought it was going to work. But I think he had a real understanding, a better understanding of Luke Skywalker than J.J. Abrams. The problem is J.J. Abrams painted him in one light, and we never saw the evolution journey of that character to get to where he was. So I think Rian Johnson was not so much subverting our expectations with Luke, but bringing Luke down to, like, he's not a myth. He doesn't want to be a myth. That's not who he is. And I think he had a better understanding of that. Now, whether or not, I mean, obviously people didn't like it. Some people did. I think the lightsaber throw with the Daffy Duck music leading up to it is still a mistake.
Yeah.
I think they could have handled that a lot better, but I think, how do we get on this? I just think the way they handled Luke from the get-go was like, you're putting too much on this guy. Even Michael Arndt, when he was doing the writing, he's like, every time Luke came on the screen, all the attention went to Luke. Why? Why did it go to Luke? Why?
See, I mean, I brought this up last week, but he played Star Wars at school. Nobody wanted to be Luke. Everybody wanted to be Han Solo. And I think, Han Solo is probably more of a legend than Luke, and I think the Millennium Falcon was more of a legend than anyone.
And it was garbage.
Yeah.
The garbage will do. Great gag, but you're right. Like, you're right. The Falcon destroyed the second Death Star with Lando.
Yeah.
And
he saved Luke. And the first one that allowed him to destroy the first Death Star.
You're right. I think, yeah. Now you've ruined all the sequels for me, Ivy. Every single sequel ruined, completely ruined. KK needs to be fired
again.
Again, she was fired earlier today, but we'll see if we can get her fired one more time for good measure on today's call.
Well, I mean, Rey does make the comment, this is the Millennium Falcon, so yeah, so it was a legendary ship for her.
So here's the point, because they thought that's how the majority of fans felt. Luke is basically a god to many. Exactly, but within the world, he shouldn't be. And that's why I think what they did in The Mandalorian was kind of perfect with Luke, right? When he comes in and he does this John Wick on all the Death Troopers, or the Dark Troopers, whatever they were. And then the door opens, and then he's just Luke. He's nice Luke. And again, they're doing what I think they need to do, and they start to flesh out who this guy is, why he was the way he was. You can see, he is kind of a legendary, but he still did that.
I've come to steal your younglings.
I'm here to steal your youngling. But I think what they did there was great with Luke, because it showed up how powerful it was. But again, it's very isolated, right? There's 3 people on that ship. There's three men. There's a Mandalorian, the two other Mandalorians, and Moff Gideon, right? And Cara Dune. But she's
Her best
I
line
think
ever.
digitally. What was it?
Her best line. Like that character was just getting better, dude. She goes, "Wow, one X-wing, we're saved."
Oh yeah. And they teased her for a whole. She had a whole series coming out, man.
Oh,
a
that
whole
was her
series.
best line.
And then Twitter did what? And then Twitter got rid of Ugly Sonic, and because Twitter's biggest claim, Twitter's biggest claim to fame is getting rid of Ugly Sonic and Gina Carano.
Good job, guys.
Well, here's the thing. What was that show? After the Mandalorian show. What was it called? I can't remember. But
Range of the New Republic.
No. When they would do like an after show of the Mandalorian, they would talk about how they did stuff.
Did they do like an assembled kind of thing? Like,
was it the one where they sat on the table?
Oh yeah, they did those round tables.
The first season was a round table. The second season, was
and then COVID.
It
was good. That was good.
Gallery.
That's what the gallery. Yeah, that's what we learned what the volume was.
Right. The one with Ahsoka. They were talking about how they had to be careful because Ahsoka was going to have to be a better swordsman than Luke was because she had been more trained. She had been trained better with the lightsabers Luke had. Oh my God, the fans went nuts. Like, how dare you say that Luke's the best? Nobody's better. I mean, does he have to?
And then you
get
the prequel people involved with like prequel era lightsaber training versus OT training.
But people were like mad that Filoni said that she was a better swordsman than he was.
I remember
Luke's
that.
just supposed to be. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
I honestly, I like Luke. I'm sorry, I was going to say I like Luke, but he's probably my least favorite character of the original trilogy.
I think that's why they're smart to just go on a new path with new characters and leave the baggage of the old fans and the old stuff in the past. Because and I say this all the time is don't try to get new fans necessarily. Just try to stay your course because the old fans are going to come with you if you tell good stories and have good characters. We're all going to go along with you as long as you maintain that. And new fans are going to come in, but you can't change what Star Wars is to do that. So I think the stuff they did with Ahsoka, like I would bet you even the biggest hater, if you're like, what if? I mean, and now obviously the actor passed away, so it won't be the same. But who wasn't fascinated by Balin's skull? Right? Who wasn't like, and like, first of all, Ray Stevenson, rest in peace. He was so damn good in that role. Every time he spoke, I'm like, I'm on board. Like, make a whole, I was make a whole show about him. Now, I don't know who they're going to get to replace him. Hopefully it's somebody that can keep that up. But that character was an excellent character. I think the way it ended sucked, how it just didn't go anywhere. And you're like, okay, great. So we're getting another season. But that character's like, they have the ability to make fascinating characters. Mandalorian, Quill, one of my favorite characters, dies right away, but one of my favorite characters. They have these characters. I think they can string us along. You just have to flesh them out and remind us why we love Star Wars.
I don't know. I just think you just need to have fun.
You should go talk to Donald Glover.
I'm worried about that show. Anyway.
I mean,
it's not a show, it's a movie. It's
a movie. Yeah, like
I don't know. How do you make a Lando movie? If you're afraid to make a Kenobi movie, how are you making a Lando movie?
How do you make a Lando movie after you did a Solo movie and it did what it did to the fandom and it's still doing what it did to the fandom?
Because Lando's the smoothest man in the galaxy.
Hey. Fair point. All right, let's wrap this up. Scott, are you live streaming tonight?
I don't know. I don't think so. I'm kind of hit or miss. I suggest if you come over to my channel, you definitely hit the notifications.
Ding that bell.
I'm officially patched though, so I'm a gang member of a motorcycle club, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. People are like, "You do what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I play GTA, but it's a whole world created by players who are the developers, and it's like custom scripts. It's fully modded Grand Theft Auto. All the cops are people like me. All the EMS are people like me. It's awesome. You should subscribe. Check it out.
Scotty Hawkish. Heidi, was there anything you wanted to add to our conversation?
I don't. I mean, the truth is, if we're not 100% sure what we want, how are the producers and executives at Disney 100% about what we want?
Focus on what makes a good story, and I think that will answer both of your questions. Just focus
Qui-Gon
on a
said
good
it.
story. But
Focus. What is it? Focus. Energy goes where focus goes where energy flows. What's the saying, chat?
that sounds like a Spice Girl song.
I butchered it. No, it's something out there.
Our focus determines our
Pretend I said
reality.
it. Yeah.
I think
Just
it's
pretend I
our
said it
focus
was right.
No, I think you're right, Heidi. But I think if they focus on quality, I think fans will. That's what fans will want. But I think but also the OT characters. I think you're in a corner. You're painted in a corner.
Well, I mean, I talked about this with Andrew.
Sorry.
Whether or not you believe that toxic fandom is a problem or not, I think it is. I don't think it's the only reason that the Acolyte had problems, but because of that, Star Wars is just gonna have to be 10% better than normal. They're just gonna have to give that extra effort. That's all I can say. If you think it's 100% perfect, you gotta give it an extra 10%.
Yeah, I think you might be right, and that's going to be a challenge for Disney Lucasfilm forward is make something better than it needs to. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, I think Skeleton Crew. I think it's all. I think Skeleton Crew is going to be a big deal for Star Wars, because if it doesn't do very well, then we are. Not we, but Star Wars is in a tough spot, because you got Andor and then Ahsoka season 2 and the Mando and Grogu. Well, you're not in a tough spot. You got enough coming out. Star Wars.
Well,
Heidi, plug your books. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Here's one of my books. It's called His Enchanted Swan. You can catch it on Amazon under my name, Heidi Fetter. Or I was one of 3 books. Goes to Windworth Manor. It's under my pen name, Ann Drayton. Both are at Amazon. You can look up Ann Drayton or Heidi Fetter. I forget. I was gonna say something, but I forget what I was gonna say. I was gonna add to something. I don't remember.
Sorry.
Oh well.
I know I threw you off with a check out the books on Amazon. Can you get them other places or just Amazon?
Pretty much just Amazon at this point.
Amazon. All right, Amazon. Go pick those up. And I'm thanks for watching, everybody. The chat was awesome. Glad you guys did along. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
As always, and you too, thank you so much for joining me on another Flying Casual. Next week, we're going to talk something positive, unless, of course, 1,000 more articles come out about how Star Wars sucks and it's killing.
Hey, all roads lead to the sequel, man. It's not our fault.
Things. You're lucky Ron's not your neighbor. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and until next time, may the force of others be with you.
For watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.